You won't want to miss 20 years of investigative reporting on the Iranian nuclear bomb. In the process, we made publishing history by going global with 12 editions on the 12-day war that only ended 2 weeks ago. How did you finish your book and push it out internationally just 2 weeks after the war ended?
And now, The Edwin Black Show. Sponsored by the books of Edwin Black, available on Amazon and at booksellers worldwide. And now, here's Edwin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Edwin Black, investigative journalist, historian, and human rights author of 300 editions in 40 languages in 190 countries worldwide, including IBM and the Holocaust, War Against the Weak, and now my latest, Israel Strikes Iran, Operation Rising Lion, the 20-year backstory, just releasing today everywhere across this planet in 12 editions, that is 2 paperbacks, 3 hardbacks, 5 eBooks, and 2 audiobook editions through the major booksellers in 190 countries, plus a special commemorative gift edition offered only at Barnes & Noble. Now you can hit Amazon, iTunes, Google Books, Kobo Books and Audio, and Audible. You won't want to miss 20 years of investigative reporting on the Iranian nuclear bomb. In the process, we made publishing history by going global with 12 editions on the 12-day war that only ended 2 weeks ago. Remember, ours is a show for opinion makers and decision makers, not mass clicks. So if you think our show's content is meaningful, spread the word throughout your most informed networks. Subscribe for alerts at theedwinblackshow.com. And if you want to support our work, we need your assistance. Please visit theedwinblackshow.com/support. Your help, big or small, assures our complete and utter intellectual and uncensored journalistic independence. Go to theedwinblackshow.com/support and keep us independent. Or you can just go to israelstrikes.com, hit any of the book buy options, and you can support us that way as well. Today's episode is made possible and sponsored without any preconditions, requests, or stipulations by the Stram family, people who care about our people, and co-sponsored by my just-released book, Israel Strikes Iran, Operation Rising Lion, the 20-year backstory. If you would like to honor someone with a sponsorship, contact us. That said, remember, I only speak for myself and for history, and the same goes for my guests. Today, we welcome viewers from across America, including our 4 watch parties in the villages, Newton, Mass., Chicago, and Tampa Bay. Overseas, I see viewers logged on from most of our usuals. I see Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, Canada, Germany, Holland, France is here, Italy, Spain, Poland, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, our big audience in Panama, the UAE, Turkey, hello Turkey, and Israel, plus other countries. If you have a question, place one short sentence in Zoom's QA feature. The Edwin Black Show, along with our YouTube site, speaks frankly and without tremor to a fragmented world seeking better understanding of our tormented past, our present, very, very tense, and a turbulent future still uncertain. By the way, stay tuned for my special word of wisdom at the very end of the show, just before I sign off. Without delaying another moment, let's get to your many questions about Israel's legendary strike against Iran and my book that documented this 20-year backstory. Okay, we'll go here to the watch party in the villages. I heard you on Glenn Beck this morning. Yes, that was a wonderful interview. And his first question was, how did you finish a book and push it out internationally just 2 weeks after the war ended? Can you give us more? Well, the reality is that I've been writing about this and covering Iran's progress on its nuclear ambition, Israel's readiness to attack, and America's willingness to help out militarily. I've been tracking this for 2 decades. I've been publishing on it, so I had a great deal of information built up. In addition, I actually wrote the book 2 years ago, took out the website, israelstrikes.com, and got the chapters organized and was ready to publish the book the moment Israel launched its attack, so I could have the final chapter and I could have the subtitle, which is Operation Rising Lion. But most of all, I have an extremely talented, devoted, and intellectual support team in terms of proofreading, documentation, footnoting, graphics, editorial, production, and all of these people in so many time zones went to work. And the result is publishing history, a global book published in all the major channels in just 2 weeks. Thank you, villages. Hope to see you. From the watch party in Newton, did the massive ordnance penetrator destroy Iran's nuclear program or just delay it by a few months? So the answer is both. Yes, the program was obliterated, but if you've got a regime that is hell-bent on sacrificing its own population and national standing just so it can pursue this apocalyptic vision of destroying Israel to usher in its concept of a Shia Islamic paradise, it can be restarted. So how do we know that it's absolutely broken? Well, first of all, the centrifuges that have to enrich the uranium are extremely sensitive. They can be destroyed just by pushing on them a little bit, or even if their speed of circulation as they're spinning out these enriched atoms, if that speed is adjusted, these things will go out of whack. So the point is, we know it's been destroyed. There was so much overpressure and there was so much fire and so much blast that it was completely obliterated. And it isn't that there's a roof. The Fordow facility is built like a kind of a trident with tunnels. So all of this incredible 30,000-pound bomb times 6 was all funneled through these confined areas. The International Atomic Energy Agency, which monitors this, that their equipment has all been destroyed because it was attached to the centrifuges. The Israeli intelligence, the independent watchdogs, and the CIA, they all come up with the same conclusion. However, it can be restarted, and I'll talk about that because I have other questions. But it's a good question. I'm glad you asked it, and the answer is yes. But remember, if you've got a regime that spent the last 20 to 30 years sacrificing their national interest to pursue this, anything can happen. Watch party in Chicago. Where is the 400 kilograms of missing 60% uranium and what can be done with it? Well, most people believe the 400 kilograms are trapped in the rubble of Fordow or in the rubble of Natanz or in the rubble of Isfahan. Remember, Natanz was hit 2 30,000-pound mop penetrators, and Isfahan was hit with 20 or more, perhaps as many as 30 Tomahawk missiles from a submarine, and we believe that submarine was the USS Georgia, which is a cruise missile submarine. Now, it's true, that's a potent catch of 400 kilograms, it's about 881 pounds, almost 900 pounds. That's a huge cache, but it can't be enriched if there are no centrifuges. And the facility for building the centrifuges, replacing the centrifuges, has been bombed out by Israel with one of its 500 attacks. And so we feel that the uranium is fundamentally at this moment inert. Also, it can be tracked. These molecules give off huge molecular signatures. It can be tracked from outer space. It can be tracked from vehicles with air sampling within Iran. It can be tracked by drones. It can be tracked by high-flying airplanes like the U-2. Thank you for the question. Mark in Vancouver, is Israel's war with Iran over, or is there more? There's more. I'll be, unfortunately, doing updates to my book very shortly. So I'd like to say that President Trump, I just wrote an article about this in the JNest, which you can find at jnest.org. I just wrote, or .com, I'm not sure which. Both Trump and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu have just announced that they would be willing to bomb Iran if Iran continues its nuclear ambitions and tries to re-enrich. Right now, the Iranian parliament has made it illegal to cooperate with the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency. This law was approved by the Council of Guardians, and it is now, there's a loophole that allows the Supreme Council of the Ayatollahs to step in. But Iran is making it impossible to monitor. The program can be restarted deep underground in one of its many subterranean facilities, such as Pickaxe Mountain, which is not far from Natanz, but it can also be restarted in the hold of any of 3 oil tankers, and it could also be restarted in Yemen if they decide to do that. Where there's bad will, there's a bad way. And so, yes, you could expect Iran to be bombed again. And in fact, Bibi Netanyahu specifically stated in a White House setting, in Blair House, he said that Iran's actions are like a cancer. Even though you clear it out once, you keep having to go back in time and time again. And we saw that with Hamas, which was the Iran terror group. They sponsored Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And of course, we saw no matter what was done to Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas, Israel had to go in there and constantly counteract the terrorist and life-threatening aspects of what was being done there. We shouldn't forget that Iran was doing 2 different cancers, quoting Bibi Netanyahu. One was the missiles, and one was the nuclear warhead. And I've described the nuclear warhead in detail in this book, and it will explain exactly how there was supposed to be an outer implosion, which would be absorbed by a exploding bridge wire fuse, which would transduce the energy to a neutron initiator, which would shoot out this one stray neutron into the highly enriched uranium core, and that would create the mushroom cloud 550 feet above the ground in Israel. So I expect we shall see more. Next question. Josie from London. We saw a lineup of trucks at Fordow. Were they moving the uranium to a secret location? All right, a lot of people saw a satellite image of a bunch of trucks over in a curve, looked like about 20 or 30 trucks, and they thought that these were moving the uranium. I doubt that very much because these were pickup and construction and cement trucks. What they were doing was, it was understood by the Iranian military that if America did bomb Fordow, they would probably go in through the ventilation. So they built this extraordinary concrete structure above the ventilation shafts. It still had a layer underneath for the air to exchange, but it was making it much more difficult to get in. I don't know if it was 10 feet or 20 feet, but they were obviously making it difficult. All of that was calculated by the experts at the Department of Defense who have been studying this mountain and this facility for some 15 years, maybe 20 years, studying the satellite imagery each and every day. What was being done with the construction? What was the weather like? What was the ground like? What was the material being removed? Just everything they could possibly glean. So these guys lived and dreamed everything about Fort Isle and destroying it. So those trucks were not carrying the 60% uranium. That uranium, by the way, has got to be put into special blue stable containers, and they're very heavy, and they would have to be taken out in special protected trucks. Thank you for the question. Marina in Turkey. Hello, Turkey. Can you tell me what air defense in Syria Israel had to take out to prepare for Operation Rising Lion? Now, this is a very important question. I know that Turkey is deeply involved in Syria, and you certainly have been trying, your government has certainly been trying to set up air bases and military bases there. But in order for Israel, and the book makes this clear, in order for Israel to create the highway, the uninterrupted air lane to attack Iran, it had to destroy the air defenses and the radars in Syria, which of course were left over from the Russian days. So I made a list of them. They took out SA-2 and SA-3 batteries, 100% destroyed. SA-22 and SA-6 systems, almost 90% destroyed. SA-17 batteries, about 80% destroyed. The SA-8s, surface-to-air missile systems, about 77 to 80%, and about 2/3 of the SA-26 systems. About 90% of all Syrian air defense was neutralized, and it was neutralized in an almost overnight strike that no one saw coming once the regime of Bashar al-Assad came to an end and was replaced by this ISIS 3.0 leader who is now apparently put on a fancy suit, wears a $70,000 watch, and may actually use his position to create peace in the Middle East. There are direct talks between his government and the Israeli government right now. The United States has arranged for that. That's the main reason why Trump waived the sanctions. That's why Saudi Arabia encouraged him to waive the sanctions. This was all foreseen. Thank you for the question. Let's go to Harvey. The Houthis are basically a nuisance, but they can still impact shipping lanes through a variety of measures. How can we neuter them? That's Harvey in Tampa. So this we know, that Israel lacked a lot of intelligence, Mossad penetration into Yemen until the beginning of the year when the Houthis started attacking in earnest. The Houthis are nuts. They have a different mindset. Their flag, the Houthi flag, actually has an emblem that says death to the Jews, death to the Zionists, and it is difficult. But in recent days, well, first of all, the United States bombed them for 51 days, and then they cut a deal with Washington to stop attacking U.S. ships and the sea lanes. Now, it's interesting. No one in the Democratic side of Congress made any mention about the War Powers Act when we were bombing Yemen just weeks ago, day and night, as opposed to when Israel and the United States attacked Iran. So I found that fascinating. Right now, Israel has been hitting Yemen. It now has penetrated Yemeni society. The Mossad is doing its number, setting up situations, and a secret air base is being developed let me say, within a 5-minute flight of Yemen, the Yemen Houthis. And from that secret air base, Israel will be able to launch certain countermeasures to take down launches before they get up into the air very high. These will be on launch. I can't go into too much more detail. I can't tell you where this place is, but I'm sure that my staff who hears this now knows what I'm talking about. And maybe I can, if Ken or Harvey or wants to call me after the show, I'll tell you a little more about this. That's a great question. Thanks, Harvey. Stephen Schwartz from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, 15 miles west of Gettysburg. I get it. Any risk of North Korea smuggling the bomb to Iran without being detected? I say no, because even though you can mask this stuff with lead shields, the fact is everything coming in and out of Tehran, in and out of North Korea is carefully monitored, both from satellite, from spy plane, and from intelligence assets on the ground. So it's a good question because Medvedev from Russia, who was rotating with Putin, said, well, we'll just smuggle one in if they can't make their own. That is a real threat, but I do not believe it's going to happen because Donald Trump, if he finds out about it, will put a stop to it. And that means intercept the ship, sink the ship, or bomb the facilities, either as they're dispatching or receiving such warheads. Good question, Stephen. Question here from Sal in Panama, which is one of our biggest audience segments. I'm not sure why. Just purchased the eBook right after the Glenn Beck show. Thank you. My question is, where did Iran get the money to create the axis of resistance? That is the terrorist groups that you described. Well, they got it from the JCPOA, from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And it's important to understand the billions of dollars that flowed in to Iran from this JCPOA, from all sources, including the United States, sent millions of dollars in cash via pallets of currency. All that funded or extended or enlarged Hamas, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the Hezbollah lookalikes in Iraq, in Syria. And was it foreseen, the painful reality that Barack Obama and John Kerry actually knew, they knew that Iran, due to the terms of the JCPOA, would be guaranteed a nuclear bomb after 15 years, and that if they cheated, they could probably shorten that to 10 years, which would make it 2025 right now. They also went on the record and admitted that they knew that the billions of dollars flowing into Iran would fund terrorist organizations determined to kill Jews and Israelis. It's hard to believe that they would knowingly push through such a pact. I know that Barack Obama thought, well, this will be a counterweight to Israel. That's not how it was. It wasn't a counterweight. Iran used this opportunity to develop its weapons of mass destruction. So thank you for your question. Question from Rita in Century City. Please talk about regime change. Will the IRGC in Basij, that's BASIJ, that's like the secret police and Gestapo of Ayatollah regime, will these branches of the military stage a coup, or will the Iranian army have a large defection? This is a very important question, Rita. Hi, Steve. This is a very important question because you're actually talking about two types of regime change. One, your question intersects two types of regime change. The regime change that all of us are talking about is the popular regime change, the regime change that will come from the fact that there are many, many non-Shia minorities in Iran, the fact that there are that about 70 to 80% of the population of Iran vehemently wants peace and vehemently wants to overthrow its horrible Ayatollah theocracy. That's true. But your question brings up another possibility. Is it possible that the even more fanatical, I know that's hard to believe, but the even more fanatical establishment within the Iranian Republican Guard and the Basij, that they might actually stage their own coup because the Ayatollahs are finding it impossible not to communicate, let's use the word communicate, with the West, whether that means disarm or whether that means try to fake us out with a new agreement, just talking. And so, yes, it's something we need to think about. Donald Trump and Bibi both knew exactly where Ayatollah Khamenei was. They chose not to decapitate because he is a head of state. And that would have taken this to a very, very different level. It's possible that we may see this entire conflict, Operation Rising Lion, may reemerge. Another chapter may have to be written, and it may be unavoidable to actually take out the Ayatollahs, and even more of the IRGC than was taken out in the first minutes of Operation Rising Lion. And here I refer to Operation Red Wedding, which was a sub-operation. And that is where all these 30 top generals were summoned into this one bunker. Israel knew where the bunker was and destroyed it in the first minute. Great question, Rita. Hope to see you soon. Here we have Melissa in Houston. If the Iranian regime is neutralized, can we see peace in the Middle East? That's a good question, Melissa, and I believe the answer is a great big yes. Remember, the Iranians are not in the Middle East. They're in Asia. They're in Persia, and the Iranians are not Arabs. So they're trying to impose their will. In addition, the Iranians are not part of the 85% of the Islamic world, which is Sunni. They are part of the 15% fanatics known as Shiism, which is sort of a rejectionist and apocalyptic portion of Islam that they're sometimes called Twelvers. They're often called Twelvers because they believe that by doing certain things such as destroying the West, destroying Israel, they will usher in the coming of the 12th Imam, and that will usher in paradise. So you see all of these groups right now wanting to make peace with Israel. You see Saudi Arabia, you see Syria, you see Lebanon. It doesn't mean they want to love Israel, but the concept of peace in the Middle East is not the same as the concept we have in the West. In the West, we find a modus vivendi, and we basically find a mutual way to achieve peace. In the Middle East, in the Arab world, in the world where Israel is living, in the world of the new conceptia that Israel has adopted, the old conceptia being we can coexist with our enemies. In the Arab world, they believe in the strong horse. Ask any Arab expert, and they will say they believe in the strong horse. So they will make an alliance with the strong man, and they are utterly astonished that Israel has fought back on not just 5 fronts, but on 8 fronts, and fought an insurrection within its own populace at the same time. And so they are anxious to align and ally with Israel and make peace for a lot of reasons. Not because they love Israel, but they just want peace, and they're tired of living the life of the 13th century over and over again, like has been done by these radicals. So yes, peace can take place once this constant disruptor, Iran, moves off the stage. Let's see what we have here. We have Yaakov. The U.S. and Israel need to take out the evil Ayatollah and his cabinet. Otherwise, they will keep moving to successfully produce nuclear weapons. Yaakov, you're not necessarily wrong. And an earlier questioner, Stephen from Chambersburg, wondered if they could buy one. Pakistan, which is known to have the, quote, what is known as the Islamic bomb, could ultimately sell it to them. After all, who in Pakistan can't use $50 to $100 million? So this is why vigilance is required, and that vigilance will not be paused. You know, there's a meme out with Obama here and Trump here. They're both looking at each other. And under Obama, the headline is, I ran. And under Trump, it says, I didn't. That should answer you there. Sherry has posted my article in JNS. It's in the chat group. Thank you, Sherry. I hope to see you soon. Steve wants to know, has the U.S. given Iran an ultimatum to cease enrichment, stop support of proxies, stop ICBM production, and stop the Houthi missile attacks? So the answer is, Steve, that's exactly what has been done. No matter what Trump said, the reality on the ground and on the piece of paper and on the tabletop was complete dismantlement, zero enrichment, and take down your ballistic missile threat, which a UN resolution stated was mandatory, but Iran claimed that the text sounded like a request instead of demand. And I believe they're sticking to it. And what's interesting here is Trump said at the end, okay, I'll give you 60 days. And when 60 days was done, that's when Israel started. And no matter what Trump said and what it appeared through leaks, including staged fake leaks, that there was some air between Trump and Bibi, none of that mattered. And none of it mattered by what anything Iran said. Oh, we're getting ready to talk. Oh, we're reviewing it. Oh, we'll review it on Thursday. Oh, on Thursday, we'll have to wait till Saturday. This is what they've been doing for 20 years. So the answer is that Trump will not stand for it. And now that he's been bolstered by the success of Operation Midnight Hammer, he's ready to go again. And Bibi has said so. And Trump has actually said so. Good question. See what else we have here. Okay. Rami in the UAE. What are some of the secret weapons Israel has that you've alluded to, but did not use in Operation Rising Lion? Can you give us a hint? No. But I can tell you that one of them was in a container with a green thing on top, and the code name is RD, and Israel chose not to use it, but I can't say that Israel will not use it in the coming days. I can't tell everything that I know, but I can tell you there were many secret weapons that Israel had because they planned. They planned for 20 years. They tried out various scenarios. And as the 20 years went down, different defenses occurred, different capabilities occurred. There was a generational change. Here's a note from Yaakov. The father of the Muslim nuclear bombs is the Pakistani A.Q. Khan, who stole the blueprints from the Dutch company and sold the techniques to Gaddafi, Pakistan, and others. Yes, Yaakov, you've obviously read part of my book. That's in there. It's also in my original article over about 5 to 8 years ago that appeared in the Times of Israel. It is A.Q. Khan, and we actually show A.Q. Khan's instruction book and his drawings. Good, Yaakov. Chris, some of Iran's enriched uranium survived the attacks per New York Times article released today that cites an unnamed senior Israeli official. Is there any truth to this? There is some truth to it. First of all, we would never believe anything from the New York Times, especially to a so-called senior Israeli official, which could be a commandant in the parking violation division. Bibi Netanyahu knows where this is. It's not quite buried, but it is below ground. And we don't know if that's in Fordow, Natanz, Isfahan. Remember, there was a decentralized nuclear industry of 27 sites spread all over the country with redundancy. And so my book, Israel Strikes Iran, lists some of this and all the many different enterprises and charades that Iran undertook just to accelerate their system. They spent millions of dollars, for instance, millions of dollars to acquire carbon fiber capabilities. This is in the book. Just so they would be able to build a little bit of a stronger centrifuge that could go around and around like that and do its spinning a little faster so they could make the IR6 instead of the IR5 and the IR4. But remember, they can't do anything with enriched uraniums. Write this down. They can't do anything with 60% enriched uranium unless that uranium can be turned in, that gas, UF6, can be turned into a solid. And that solid would have to be metallized into a sphere. And that sphere would have to be placed inside the warhead. And these facilities have been greatly bombed. Israel was so deep into its target bank, they were actually bombing the 20th century aircraft that Iran had that were afraid to go aloft. And they even took out some helicopters. So thank you, Chris. Jacob in Munich. Does Israel have nuclear weapons? Well, put it this way. Israel pursues what they call nuclear ambiguity. But I can tell you this, if even one of those nuclear weapons that were just 2 weeks away, as the book makes clear, hit Israel, Israel has a second strike capability. It's got the Jericho 3, it's got the Popeye, and it's got the Rampage. It's got a triad that can deliver those non-existent nuclear weapons from land, sea, and air. And you must understand that all of humanity would have pivoted to a mushroom cloud existence if Israel had not attacked and if Trump had not finished the job with the mops. Thank you, Rami. Jacob, and don't ask me where those non-existent silos are. Herman in Alexandria. Why did Biden hate Israel so much that he stopped the weapons supply? That's not quite a correct analysis. It isn't that Biden hated Israel. It's that Biden was not in control of his own administration. And there were many, many anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist forces within the Biden administration, which were seizing control of what the Biden administration was doing and not doing. And for this reason, the Biden administration started to blackmail Israel. The day after October 7th, they held up weaponry. They wanted to give an award, a prize to Hamas for its massacre of more than 1,000 Jews, its rape and its destruction of babies in front of their mothers and mothers in front of their babies. They want to give them sovereignty as a gift. It made no sense whatsoever. And it was resisted, but it was very hard to resist. The D9s, that's the minesweeper caterpillars made in Peoria, Illinois, were held up. And those were approved by the Trump administration, and they arrived in Haifa just yesterday, many of them. Biden held up the 2,000-pound bombs that were needed to clear out these deep, deep tunnels. There's a tunnel structure there. Remember, there's tunnels all over Gaza, but not one bomb shelter. And that's because they believe that civilian casualties are a weapon to deploy. Not one bomb shelter with a militarized tunnel system bigger than the London Metro. Okay, thank you very, very much. Sybil in Boston, what is your next book? My next book. I have 13 more books in mind and started. And now that I've finished this one, I'm going to get on to the next one. And maybe I'll have it finished by the end of the year, but you'll be among the first to know. Stephen in Toronto, is there any alternative to regime change in Iran? And will it come from within? There's no alternative to regime change in Iran. If we really want to defang the Iranian threat, empower the Iranian population, and bring peace to the area, we will have to do exactly what we did to Nazi Germany. We'll have to take out the leadership. We'll have to decapitate. And whether that's going to be done now, sooner, or later, we're not sure. Steve wants to know, can Israel defend against thousands of missiles with cluster munition warheads? This was part of a prior question I didn't quite answer as well as I should have, but Bibi Netanyahu said it's one thing to have a nuclear missile and to try to stop it. It's another thing to be hit by 20,000 missiles. Israel cannot withstand, no country can withstand 20,000 missiles, couldn't withstand 10,000 missiles, couldn't withstand 5,000 missiles, especially if they're all coming at once and from different directions. Even though Israel has the Iron Beam, and the Iron Beam has been deployed, the limit is 7 miles. And remember, if you launch 100 missiles and if one of them gets through, if 99% are taken out, one of them gets through, they'll launch 1,000 missiles and, hundreds get through, 10,000, 20,000. This ballistic missile program was part of this wild attempt to destroy the Jews. And that was the second and co-equal reason that Operation Rising Lion could not wait. It was now or never. And if they wouldn't have pushed the button when they did, if they wouldn't have green-lighted, and the book shows exactly how this occurred and the moment it occurred, mankind might be a very different place today. Chris in Indiana, what are the chances that the Ayatollah could be overthrown from within Iran without foreign assistance? Has that moment passed? Maybe yes and maybe no. It would be good if it was done from within. But we've missed so many opportunities to help the Iranian dissidents come to the fore. Thousands of them right now, thousands plural, are and have been helping Israel for years. So there's a huge move afoot, but it may be necessary for the removal, the decapitation, to come from outside. I can tell you that over 700 people have been arrested since the war ended. 7 people have been executed. The Jewish community has been targeted, which I can tell you there are no Iranian Jews who are working for Israel in its operations. People are being stopped on the street. Their cell phones are being seized. And if there's even some criticism, they'll be sent off to the prison or the interrogation chambers. People are now so afraid that they're leaving their phones at home and leaving the house without their phones. And under these conditions, under these Gestapo-like conditions, these Nazi-like conditions, it may be necessary to come in from external sources for decapitation. And I would support that. Okay, I think we're about out of time, and we are out of time. I want you to hold for my closing word of wisdom, just 2 minutes away. But first, I want to thank my fabulous book team. Eve in New Jersey, Virginia, also in Jersey, Christine in Indiana, Holly in Nashville, Richard and Rebecca in the Philippines, beautiful people. And of course, Carol in Maryland, indispensable. What a talented team of book warriors I am blessed with. I also thank my forward contributors, Josh Block of the Hudson Institute, who wrote one of the forwards, and Alex Trayman of Jewish News Service, who wrote another. I'll see everyone back here in 2 weeks at 3 p.m. Eastern. You want to be a friend of the Edwin Black Show? Go to theedwinblackshow.com/support. Keep me independent. You want to hear me in person? Watch my website for events. Consult my events page at edwinblack.com. You want a copy of Israel Strikes Iran? Go to Amazon or to israelstrikes.com. Until then, head over to any Barnes & Noble in the USA or any Amazon, Walmart, iTunes, Google Books, Kobo, or Audible.com platform in 190 countries across this roiling, toiling, boiling planet, where you can find any of my 300 book editions, such as IBM and the Holocaust, and now Israel Strikes Iran. You want an autographed copy? Hit edwinblack.com and click books. Get access alerts to participate live in future shows at theedwinblackshow.com. You'll see a much enhanced and exquisitely produced version of this show and prior episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channel at The Edwin Black Show and click that notification button like tens of thousands of others. Follow me at Edwin Black Book on X as well as Facebook. And now, for my closing word of wisdom. If you think you have what it takes, prove it. I'm zooming out, ladies and gentlemen, from our nation's capital. Bless all of you and pray for all that is unfolding before our eyes.